Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to analyze what is, I think, one of the most significant and kind of stealthy strategic pivots in recent automotive history.
hmm
For years, we've all heard about one specific feature, full self-driving, or FSD. It's always represented this, high-stakes promise of level 5 autonomy, where the car just drives itself, no human needed.
And that promise has always been just around the corner.
Exactly, just around the corner.
And now it seems that corner has been turned, but maybe not into the autonomous paradise that so many people were expecting. We've gone deep into your stack of sources here, the SEC filings, social media announcements, the regulatory battles to really unpack this massive shift.
Right.
And our focus today is on two deeply intertwined actions by the company that completely redefine what FSD is, both legally and for your wallet.
So we're exploring how they first subtly changed the very definition of autonomy in corporate documents, probably to meet internal goals.
Yep.
And then how they just completely dismantled the pricing model. They killed the idea FSD as this expensive one-time purchase.
And made it subscription only.
So the core question for you, the current or maybe future EV owner, is simple. What does all this mean for the trustworthiness of the technology and, the longevity of your investment?
Let's get into it.
Okay.
And I think we have to start with the language, with a quiet redefinition of what autonomy even means.
It's the perfect place to start because there's this fundamental, almost frustrating contradiction that has existed for years. They call it full self-driving.
Right. The name itself is the promise.
But if we look at the actual industry standards, from the Society of Automotive Engineers, the
Right.
SAE, the system is what universally recognized as level 2.
Level 2. Not even close to level 5.
Okay, let's just make sure we are crystal clear for everyone listening. What does that distinction really mean in the real world?
Well, level 5 autonomy, which is what full self-driving implies, means the vehicle can operate anywhere, anytime, under any condition. No human needed. You can take a nap, read a book.
You're not the driver anymore.
You're not the driver, you're a passenger. But level 2, which is where FSD actually lives today, is just, it's partial driving automation. It's an advanced driver assistance system.
The key word there being assistance.
Exactly. The driver must maintain full control. You have to have your hands on the wheel. You have to supervise the system constantly. In fact, their own manuals tell you very clearly that the feature does not make the vehicle autonomous.
So the company's been fighting this battle for years, right? Between its marketing name and the technical reality. But that conflict just got a kind of official internal corporate resolution, a new, much more flexible definition.
That's it, exactly. And this shift was quietly integrated into documents related to Elon Musk's a truly staggering proposed $1 trillion compensation package.
Or $1 trillion. Okay.
To hit the enormous milestones tied to that pay package, the company realized that, relying on actually achieving true level 5 autonomy, a breakthrough that's still years away, was just way too risky.
So instead of meeting the goal, they just changed the goalpost.
Precisely. The board deliberately moved away from using those concrete, recognized SAE standards entirely.
They just stopped using the industry benchmark.
Threw it out the window.
And what do they replace it with? In those SEC filings, what's the language that gives them all this breathing room?
The new definition for FSD is, well, it's far broader. It's way less specific. It's now defined as, and I'm quoting here, an advanced driving system capable of performing transportation tasks that provide autonomous or similar functionality under specified driving conditions.
Autonomous or similar functionality. That is the definition of maximum wiggle room.
It's huge.
It sounds less like engineering and more like a legal architecture.
That's the whole point. And here's where it ties directly back to that compensation package. By avoiding the rigid SAE benchmarks, they make it exponentially easier to count current, supervised level 2 improvements toward those massive internal milestone targets.
So just making the system a little better at lane keeping can now count towards a multi-billion-dollar goal.
It could. Because those targets aren't just about technical performance. They're also tied to financial metrics like subscription take rates and usage goals. So instead of promising true unsupervised level 5, they can now hit their goals by simply improving the existing supervised features.
It's a masterful, if maybe a little cynical, legal move. They've defined success on their own terms, but surely this kind of transparent shifting of definitions invites regulatory action, right?
Oh, absolutely. The regulatory scrutiny has been constant. and in some cases pretty severe. The California DMV, for example, is continuing its case, charging that the branding itself is fundamentally misleading.
You're saying you just can't call it full self-driving.
Right. They argue it implies a capability that the vehicle just doesn't legally or practically have.
And we've seen the company react to this pressure almost on a global scale.
They're being pragmatic. They're adjusting the terminology. In the U.S., they are now labeling the system full self-driving, supervised.
Putting the fine print right in the name.
And in China, where the regulators are often even tighter, they've switched to a much more accurate name, intelligent assisted driving.
Which is what it is.
Which is what it is. It's a tacit admission that the feature requires constant human oversight. And what's fascinating is that the public-facing name is shifting to reflect Level 2, while the internal corporate definition is broadening to still count those same Level 2 improvements towards their biggest financial goals.
Okay, so the definition shift was about protecting the company legally and making sure massive internal milestones could be hit. But the only way to truly fix the financial liability and the sinking customer belief that plummeting take rate was to dismantle the whole pricing structure. And this brings us to the change that hits customers right in the wallet, the end of the appreciating asset.
This is where that high-stakes narrative truly it falls apart. The era of FSD as a capital purchase is over. The company announced that after a certain date, you can't buy it up front anymore.
Subscription only.
Subscription only. It's the end of FSD as a product that is attached to the vehicle.
And for years, that upfront purchase wasn't just a transaction, it was like the heart of the whole disruptive story that fueled their valuation. Let's walk through the history of that promise because it explains why so many customers are so disappointed.
The initial promise was almost mythical. It was a key pillar of the company's whole identity. Buy FSD now, the story went, and the price will only go up as the software gets better.
Right. Get in on the ground floor.
Early adopters paid as little as $5,000. That price just crept up and up, eventually hitting a staggering peak of $15,000 in late 2022.
15,000.
The whole incentive was built around this idea that the software was an investment. It would eventually let your car become a robotaxi, turning your vehicle, quite literally, into a highly valuable, appreciating asset.
I mean, that truly was a disruptive claim. The idea that your personal car would actively make you money and go up in value over time, just from a software update, no other car company in history has ever dared to make a promise like that.
And it worked for a while. It fueled the hype machine. But then, reality set in.
The robotaxis never came.
The robotaxi promise was consistently delayed. And by 2023, the company was facing intense pressure on deliveries. And the take rate, the percentage of new buyers actually paying for FSD, was plummeting. The market just stopped believing it was going to happen tomorrow.
And that led to a pretty painful and I'd say, frankly, humiliating price reversal last year.
Yes. Faced with sinking demand, they slashed the price of the upfront purchase dramatically, from $12,000 down to $8,000.
Okay.
And at the same time, they have the subscription price, dropping it from $199 a month to just $99 a month.
If we just look at the math at that time, it tells the whole story of why the upfront sale failed. At $8,000 upfront versus $99 a month, you'd have to subscribe for nearly 7 years.
80 months.
80 months just to break even.
Yeah.
For a system that still requires your constant supervision.
That's the critical point. The math only worked if you had immediate faith that the car was about to become level 5 autonomous tomorrow. And since that just kept not happening,
the incentive to fork over $8,000 or $15,000 just vanished.
It stopped being an investment, and it just became an expensive, depreciating bet on a future that never showed up.
So by going subscription only now, the company is eliminating that choice altogether, and, crucially, they are formally killing the promise of the appreciating asset.
That narrative is dead.
And that has huge implications for their liability, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The pivot to subscription only is a masterstroke in containing legal liability for new customers. When you bought FSD for 15 grand, you were essentially paying for a guaranteed future state for level 5.
And when that didn't arrive,
customers could potentially have grounds for a lawsuit, right? Breach of contract, misleading advertising.
Because they paid for a product they were told would gain value.
Exactly. But now, new customers are just leasing a service. They're paying month to month for what they get this month, the level 2 supervision. If the service is bad or if level 5 never arrives, you just cancel your $99 subscription.
So the liability is contained to 1 month's fee, not a $15,000 asset.
Precisely. They formally separated the technology promise from their financial liability. It's no longer a product liability, it's a continuous service revenue stream.
Which brings us squarely to the market implications. I mean, from a pure business standpoint, moving to a subscription is a necessary financial lever. It gives you a steadier stream of recurring revenue, which Wall Street loves.
Of course. Especially as the company is dealing with, slowing car sales and lost subsidies.
And if we're being honest, it's finally the more honest pricing model for what FSD is today.
It is. It's a level 2 driver assist feature. This is a way to stabilize the financials by getting existing users who want the latest beta features to sign up for that monthly fee.
While this helps the balance sheet and protects the company going forward, we have to talk about the customer pain, specifically the people who bought that high price package at its peak.
That's where the human element is just acute. Imagine you're one of the people who paid $15,000 for FSD in late 2022.
Mm.
You essentially pre-purchased 12 years of a subscription for a product that is still fundamentally in beta. It still requires your supervision. You bought into the ultimate technological fantasy, and now you're left with a system priced as a cheap service that you just heavily overpaid for.
That is a painful lesson in technological depreciation.
And the risk of buying promises instead of products.
And this whole painful history also puts their pricing in really stark contrast with what the rest of the market thinks level 2 assistance is actually worth.
We're seeing a much more pragmatic market emerge, one that isn't relying on these future robotaxi promises.
Hmm.
I mean, look at the competitors. Rivian, for instance, announced its Autonomy Plus feature.
Okay, what are they charging?
They priced it at $50 a month or a one-time fee of just $2,500.
$2,500 upfront versus Tesla's $8,000 for a comparable level 2 system. That speaks volumes.
It really sets the market ceiling for what buyers believe advanced supervised assistance is worth. That $8,000 sticker price was living in a completely different financial reality based on a future that was always just out of reach.
And it's not just other car makers, right? There's pressure from tech providers too.
Yeah, you're seeing companies like NVIDIA, which launched an open source platform for automakers, starting with Mercedes-Benz. The goal there is to foster competition, standardize the hardware, which puts even more pressure on software pricing.
And of course, you can't ignore international competitors.
Especially in China, where the EV competition is just fierce. Several manufacturers there offer similar systems for a fraction of the cost. Sometimes the features are just included in the price of the car as a standard safety feature.
All of which just makes a high-cost, upfront FSD purchase impossible to justify today.
Impossible.
So, to summarize the final significance of all this, the transition to subscription only confirms that FSD is fundamentally a service you lease for its current utility.
Not an appreciating asset you purchase as an investment. Exactly. The company is now pragmatically adjusting its financial model to reflect where autonomous technology truly stands in 2025.
And the reality is, level 5 unsupervised driving is still out of reach.
It is. So by moving to subscriptions and redefining success internally, they're managing expectations, minimizing future liability, and ensuring steady revenue from what they have right now.
Okay, let's bring this all back together for you, our listener, so you have the clearest possible takeaway from this deep dive. Our analysis really reveals two crucial strategies in motion. First, the corporate definition of autonomy. It's been quietly broadened in SEC filings to fit existing level 2 features.
Right. And that gives them the flexibility to hit these enormous internal compensation and usage milestones without actually delivering a robotaxi.
And second, that dramatic strategic shift to a subscription-only model completely eliminates the promise of a future robotaxi, minimizing long-term liability and replacing that risky upfront purchase with a more sustainable month-to-month service fee.
It's based on current supervised utility, which you get today.
This shift really represents the moment the company formally decided to manage reality rather than just sell a dream. But this raises a fascinating question for the future, and we want to leave you with a final thought to chew on.
Given this fundamental redefinition of the goalposts and the complete overhaul of the pricing model, is this pivot a positive step? I mean, does it create a more transparent, more honest market for advanced driver assistance, where you only pay for the supervised help you actually get?
Or does this change simply redefine the terminology so that true unsupervised level 5 autonomy just remains a perpetually moving and perpetually sold target?
That's the big question.
That is the ultimate question to grapple with as this technology matures. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the rewriting of full self-driving. We hope this has given you the knowledge to be well informed on this high-stakes technological and financial pivot. Find us next time for another session of the deep dive.